Welcome to a space where earth, animals, nature, and spirit are all alive, intertwined, and communicating. I'm your host, Kara Daniels, and before we jump into today's episode, I am excited to announce the official launch of my self-paced tree communication program. This is an introductory course that is designed to open the gateway of connection and communication with the trees. There are 17 instructional and demonstrative videos, guided meditations, bonus materials, interviews with other tree talkers, and a private community space where you can ask questions and meet like-minded people. If you are ready to start conversing with the trees, I invite you to join us in the Gateway, your introduction to tree communication. You can find the link below to learn more about this and become part of our growing community. Now let's dive into today's episode. I have a very special tree talking guest to introduce you to. Today I have a friend here, Kristy Prince. She is a fellow tree talker. She is an author of a book called Treeconnect Tapping into the Wisdom of the Trees and learning how. She gives amazing tips and tricks in her book. And I'm just so excited to dive into conversations with trees today. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm thrilled to be talking with you.
Likewise, it was so good to find you and know that there are fellow tree talkers in the world.
Yes, I feel like there are a lot of us, but we're also quiet about it. And it's like at some point we just need to yell from the mountaintops and say, "Hey, where's my family tree talkers out there?"
Exactly. Yes. Come out of the tree closet.
Yes. Well, I hear you just recently did that in your own community. Do you want to share about that experience?
Yeah. So the book I created was kind of a effort that came out. My husband and I traveled in 2023, and when I was in Central and South America, I was just called by all of the tree energy down there. Like, you have to write a book. You have to tell these stories. So I wrote this book, and last year in February of 2020, well, actually, it's this year, 2024. The book all came out. It was self-published. That it was a whole learning thing in itself. Writing the stories was easy. Talking to the trees was easy, but publishing your own book is woo. Anyway, so that just came out, and it just between a big move that we went through and things just kind of sat on the back burner. So we're in our new community up in Maine, and I um, met a lady who read my book, loved it, and she's like, "Oh, let's be in the local Christmas stroll." So it was my first time selling my book. Some people looked at me with a little like, "Okay, good for you talking to trees," and others are like, "Oh my gosh, this is cool. I want to learn how." So I just say this is going to go upon the ears of the people who want to hear it. And I just went to one of my art classes last week, and a lady who bought the book came up to me in my art class, and she just said, I always wanted to talk to trees. She was like whispering and didn't want other people to hear. And she's like, I'm so glad you wrote this book. So much of what you said in there is just amazing. So, anyway, yes, that was my coming out into the public a couple weeks ago.
That's so amazing. I'm like in awe because I live in a small community too, and I it seems silly, but I'm also like nobody look at me. Nobody can know what I do because it's like this is my community, and it's like there's just that
Yeah.
little space of like security still that I need. But I'm so proud of you and I'm so excited. Every time I reach somebody with the little tidbits, tips, and tricks on how to communicate with trees, they're always like, I knew it. It's like all of a sudden the light clicks and they're like, that makes so much
Yeah.
sense. I knew trees could talk. It's like, but it doesn't make sense because they don't have a brain, right? That's something that always comes up. It's like, how do they talk if they don't have a brain? Like,
Right.
there's other kinds
Yeah.
of brains.
Exactly. And do you mind if I read the channeled message the trees gave me in the foreword of my book?
No, I want you to, please.
Okay, so here's the foreword. So this was channeled as I put together all of these stories. So it said, I am an oak tree in eastern side of Cape Cod in Massachusetts in what you call the United States. I've been around for 82 years and I have seen many changes occur. It is with great fascination that we, the trees, are excited to find Christy to communicate with and share our thoughts and ideas. Although I am a single tree, I am representing all of the trees' consciousnesses. When humans first came into existence on this planet, we had already been here for millions of years. We have seen you in your developmental infancy and watched your progress over the millennial. We have always shared with you what we could, our medicine, our shelter, food, wood, and don't forget the oxygen you breathe. But over the last many centuries, you have proceeded down a path where you continue to use all of our gifts, and we do not receive anything in exchange. You have disrupted the balance of nature. Humans often think of themselves as separate from nature, but you are a part of nature. We are all nature, and we are all the earth. We are excited and pleased that you will be reestablishing this relationship because there is much to do to make up for the lost years. We can work together to benefit you, ourselves, the trees, and the planet. Our invitation has always been there, and we are delighted that you are now officially receiving it by reading this. The ability for us to communicate with you has been there all along. Look within, and you will feel the ability. Trust it, practice it, work with it, and work with us. There will be wonderful things happening to this planet when humans are in balance, working to mend the network. We are so thrilled that you are here for this journey, returning and reconnecting to our family reunion. We welcome you back, the trees.
Oh, I love the end. We welcome you back. It's
Yeah.
like I can just feel them hugging everybody that reads that or hears that. It's like, welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Oh, all the feelings.
Well, so the play on tree connect is if you get rid of the T, you've got reconnect. So I was trying to like reconnect with the trees, thus tree connect.
Nice. I love that. Well, I have read your book and I love it. And I hope everybody that listens to this reads it. So if anybody's interested, there will be a link in my show notes and all of the places I can share it. So it's easy access. I have so many questions just based off of the one little snippet that you shared with me. Number one, how did you even learn how to communicate with trees? Have you always had a connection? Have you always heard them? Tell me all about your experiences and how this opened up for you.
Wow. This is a more recent experience. I wasn't one of those kids who saw fairies or anything like this when I was a kid. And um, I've always thought trees were cool. I played in tree houses and climbed them. And it really wasn't until my late 40s that I started doing a lot of photography and taking pictures of them and kind of seeing them for their uniqueness and their different barks and their different shapes and things like that. And, truthfully, I probably couldn't name I could name some of the trees, but I can't even name what species they are. But I don't think that's all necessary for what you and I are doing because that's putting a label on them, and that's not really what they want or what we're here to do either. So, in the year, I think 2019, I ran across a course online, and it was the Earth Keepers group, and I took that class to kind of, it was with Amy Dempster, and she kind of went into a more shamanistic type of doing journeys and opening yourself to this world. So it was really in 2019 when I took the class that I started doing the meditations and the journeys that kind of opened this door into this plant world, shall we say. And first, I started talking with my house plants. And in my book, I make a comment because I had one of my house plants and I just was sitting there in the sun, like, oh, just try this on a house plant. And I tuned in and I was like, okay, houseplant, what is the secret of life? Or something, profound and deep, but I was just kind of like, ha, ha, ha. And the plant told me, the reason I am here is to sit in the sun and enjoy the sun every day. And so basically, this little plant was telling me the great Buddha mystery of just be. So that was kind of like, okay, that's not what I was expecting the plant to say. So then I started talking, trying to talk, or, making a relationship with trees in my backyard. So then the next tree, the first tree that I spoke to was the tree on Cape Cod that was outside my kitchen window that every day I would stare at. Whoops, that's my cat sneezing. And I asked it, tuned into it, introduced myself, asked if I could, talk with it a little, converse, and it was kind of surprised. I would say most of the trees, I don't know if this was with you also, but most of the trees are always surprised when I communicate with them. They're always taken back, like, you're talking to me? You want to talk with me? So um, that was this tree too, like, wow, okay. But I asked the tree outside my window, I said, I had bird baths hanging from it. I have plants hanging from it. It's like my little knickknack tree. And I commented, I'm like, are you okay with all this stuff? And he said, yes, that the tree liked having it and it felt important, but it felt that when there were big rainstorms, that the potted plants I had hanging were way too heavy and it was a burden on the tree. So I thought that was something I couldn't make up. And that's when I realized that, oh, yeah, these trees are talking to me. And that kind of started my tree adventures.
Oh, that's so interesting. When you say that they said or that they're talking to you,
Mm.
do you hear like their unique voice or does it sound like your thought? Tell me about what that's like for you.
For me, it sounds like my thoughts. Yeah. It's like a little movie going on. It's like when you're talking to yourself or you have a dream. That's what I have. But I have, some of my friends just say they see colors, they can feel the energy of the tree. Um, so we're all different as you're probably learning. We all have a strength of one of the clairs, and I can I can hear them, but it's not like I hear a voice talking like this in a different voice. It's just me thinking in my head. And sometimes I can see things too, so that's kind of clairvoyant. But so yeah, when you go with the clair you have to start off with, however it is, and then you kind of build on that, and then I think the other clairs will slowly come onto online when you start getting more confidence and practice.
Yes, I completely agree. I've had a really weird learning curve with my clairaudience. That's my primary clair. It always has been, and I did not know this until I started really teaching and talking to other people. But I hear voices. Everything I talk to has its own voice, and so for me,
Mhm.
it's like I really love how you just said it sounds and feels like your own thought because I have that every once in a while, but it's hard to explain, right? If that's not my experience or to teach it. So
Right.
how do you differentiate what is your thought and what is not your thought?
Well, um, I think it just kind of becomes intuition, like that's something I wouldn't have thought of. Um, Also, you can't overanalyze things too. That's something I've started to realize. Like the first thoughts that come to your mind, that's the communication with the trees. And if you start to overthink it, like, did I just think that? What was I thinking? Why would I think that? And that's when your brain kicks in, and that's when it kind of throws you out of that intuitive state. That's what I've experienced. So I try to really go with what I hear first. And, you know, sometimes trees well, first of all, I always say hello to the trees. Some will immediately talk back. I say in my book, it's like when you walk down the street in your town, some people keep their heads down, don't want to make eye contact with you. Some will say hi, some will stop and tell you about the weather and what they had for breakfast, so it's the same in the tree world from my experience. Some want nothing to do with us, and some have a story to tell. So,
My gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. That is something that I really emphasize with all of my messages, my sharings, is like every tree is unique. They are just
right,
as unique as you are, as I am, as your neighbor. And I honestly get a little bit of pushback with that. Especially when I say that not all trees want to be hugged or not all trees want to converse with people.
right.
And I realize like we're at this really weird point of time where people are just now realizing that they need to go back into the earth, into nature. And so it's like they're touching all the trees and connecting in. And it's like sometimes I see people hugging trees and I'm like, ah, because I can feel the tree like, oh, this is happening. Which in the big picture, it's good, right? It's good to have people reconnect, but I have definitely met some trees where they were like, no, thank you. I don't want to talk
Personal
to
space,
you.
please.
Some space, don't even look at me. Or many trees where they live in really public areas and they're constantly being touched, being messed with, and they're like, I literally just need a breather. Like I'm overstimulated. I need a minute. And yeah, I just think that everybody has their own opinion, and it's important to recognize that.
And I think when, our mission is to let people know that trees are sentient, and I think the more people that know that, then I think that will start to occur. But yeah, I mean, it's like, when people see a cute baby, some people automatically will just run over and start touching babies. And I'm like, does that baby want to be touched? I mean, it's the same thing. So, yeah, some people just don't read it. But overall, I think we need to get more people touching the trees and saying hello in the first place. So,
I do too. I do too. I just have to laugh. So many people are like, I never really thought about talking to plants. I'm like, really?
yes, that's another big
That's
one too. Like, why would you talk to a tree?
why would you not? I can't even go there. Like, why would you not talk to everything?
Yes.
Clearly. Um, what what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned just through your conversations with trees?
Well, kind of what the intro just said is that the trees want to reconnect with us, and they want gratitude. They want a balance of our relationship with them and their relationship. It's like I don't like the book The Giving Tree because the poor giving tree, gives everything and dies. But that's kind of what's going on right now. And the trees are aware of that. And what they want is gratitude in return. I did a quick meditation. We were in the country of Panama and we were staying at Airbnb and they had a little coffee plant on our porch. And when I got there, it was on the verge of death. So I kept watering it. We were there for 2 months and it got new leaves. And excuse me, I tuned into it. And I gave it gratitude. I said, thank you for coming back. I've never had my own coffee plant. It's kind of cool watching you. And I said, thank you so much for all you do in the coffee. And it it said, thank you so much for thanking us. But we wish, they said, we're glad that everybody enjoys their coffee and the fruits that we provide, but we wish everyone would give more thanks. Every day you have a cup of coffee, give thanks to the coffee plants. Give thanks to the trees and plants that are providing all of this for you. So to me, their number one lesson is they want more gratitude. And number two, they want to reestablish that balance between the two of us.
Hmm. I got so many chills when you said the gratitude. Just give your coffee gratitude. Yes, 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 yes. I should do that. I just had some. Thank you, tree. Um, yes, using their fruits, their seeds, their leaves, their needles, their
Wood,
bark,
wood to build
wood.
houses. Yeah.
Yes, yes. This is like a huge topic that comes into my world too. It's like, how can you be a tree lover and talk to trees and then still have wood? I'm like, well, it's complicated. But I mean, some trees, have you ever experienced this where the tree is ready to be something else or be into a different form? Like, they'll put their energy or spirit into a stick and be like, take this stick and like use me as a walking stick. Let's go on adventures. Or I'm ready to go be something else. Or have you ever experienced or encountered that?
I haven't yet. I will say two things that I kind of on the life death thing of trees. When we were building our house here in Maine, I let the trees know ahead of time that some of them were going to be cleared, and they were pretty upset and annoyed. They were kind of like, what have we done? Why are you taking us down? And even though I was asking, to work in companionship with them and thanking them, um, I say that in my book, they were like a little angry town meeting that they didn't want this certain law to pass and it passed anyway, type of thing. Like they didn't have any, their say didn't matter. So that's something I've come back and I've done, a ceremony thanking them all again. And I've really had to try to ground into the property because I do still feel like sometimes there's a little bit of resentment. That said, we did leave like tons of trees. We have more trees close to our house. I can reach out windows and touch trees because we really tried to be very conscientious of the big oak trees and not cut them down. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is I did have also in the book, my parents had a giant willow tree in the neighbor's house. And my mom said, "Will you please tune into that old willow tree? It's like it needs to come down, but they don't want to take it down. It's got branches that keep falling off, this and that." So I tuned in, and that tree knew it was old. It said it was old, and it told me that it was very worried that it was going to fall on either the neighbor's house or my parents' house. And this tree had so much anxiety. Like well, I have experienced anxiety like it, but it just every day had this constant anxiety of when the wind blew of please don't let me fall on the house. So it made me believe that a lot of times they are very conscious of where they are going to land or fall, and they try very hard to avoid obstacles. I tuned into the tree, and that night a remnant of a hurricane came through, and my sister texted me. I just told her that day I talked to trees and I did the whole willow thing. So she's kind of like skeptical. And she texts me that night. She's like, the willow tree came down in the storm. And I thought she was just teasing because she's like, ha ha, your willow tree came down type thing. But she was totally serious. And one half of the tree came down, missed both houses, fell right between the two houses. And when I tuned in with the tree, kind of the tree trunk the next morning, it just was like almost so much relief was from this tree. Like I tried so hard not to. I mean, it missed their house by like a foot, the neighbor's house. It missed their house by a foot. One of the branches like pierced the roof, but the whole tree did not fall on their house. So that isn't really what you were talking about. It's changing its form, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that they are very conscious of when they are coming to an end, that they will be changed somehow. And I always try to give, again, gratitude and thanks ahead of time, but doesn't mean they're always going to say, okay, sure, cut
Yeah.
us down. We're happy about it. They're
Yeah.
just like people in that respect. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really sad for that willow though. My heart's like, oh, I just want to give her a hug. I have experienced the same thing with trees that have fallen down near homes, and it's like they will literally try to twist and move their weight and shift as much as they can to not
mhm.
harm anybody or anything. So, I mean, they're trees, they can only literally manipulate their whole body
Right.
on the way down
Yeah.
so much, but they do their best.
Yeah.
I had this one gal reach out to me kind of angry at me because she was like, "What you speak of with the trees makes me upset. I had one fall on my house and almost hurt us." And I was like, all I saw was this tree doing her best to not cause harm to the people in the rooms.
Right.
And I was like, "You're never going to see that from this tree that traumatized you. I understand that, but I mean, they try. They really do try to help us. They don't want to hurt us."
Right.
Um, oh, that willow. Do you find that you feel like masculine or feminine energies with different trees?
Some I do, yeah. And then some I don't. So I guess, yeah, some I will definitely call a her or a him, I've noticed. And some, yeah, it's just like no gender associated with it. So there's definitely something to the energy of it somehow.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I get a lot of masculine vibes from ponderosas. I have a ton of ponderosa around me. And I'm like, are you all kind of a masculine vibe, or is that just me kind of like putting that there? And then I have a bunch
Right.
of
Yeah.
willows, and they're very feminine. And I'm like, well, are all willows feminine? And then
I
some trees
haven't,
are totally neutral. And it's like, okay, that's fine too.
yeah. And so then that makes you wonder, is there a reason to put a masculine or feminine energy on it? No. And like you said, are you the one reading into that? And yeah, I haven't, I do get the feelings of masculine or feminine energies, but I haven't associated them with certain types of trees. So I'll put that on my radar just out of curiosity. I haven't done it. So,
Yeah. Oh, I'll be curious to see what you find as you kind of look into that space.
yeah.
Um, so when you read your foreword, the tree that you were speaking with mentioned that he, I'll just call him a he, was um, speaking on behalf of the consciousness of all trees.
Hmm.
So I want to dive into that. We've already kind of communicated that trees are their own unique individuals, but they have the ability to also communicate on behalf of like their species, their group of trees, as well as like the greater consciousness of all trees. Do you
Hmm.
find that the feelings or the way that the messages come through are different when they speak on behalf of all of the trees, or um I don't know what I'm trying to say. Do you find that it's like kind of bigger picture information, or is there a difference? Can you tell there's a difference unless I tell you? I have so many questions.
Yeah, I know. And I was trying to think, I mean, when I talked with this tree, I asked if it had a message for the forward of my book. So the tree did say, I'm going to be speaking on the consciousness of all the trees. And when I did talk with that coffee plant in Panama, it did tell me that it was kind of representing all of the coffee plants and the fruit-giving plants. So they did tell me, um, so I can't, because they both came out right, came right out and said they were speaking on behalf of the consciousness. That's my answer. I didn't ask to speak to them on the level of consciousness, but
Yeah, that's what I find too sometimes. It's like the messages are a representative of a group or
Mhm.
all trees in general, or it's like just their personal opinion. And they
Yeah, and I
usually
mean,
guide.
if you get to that point, I mean, you can always ask. I've only had two experiences where they told me they're talking on behalf of the entire consciousness of them. So, yeah, I would say if you're learning how to talk to trees and communicate, then just ask the question, are you speaking on behalf of yourself or the consciousness of all the trees? Or maybe just in your area too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's really all sorts of different possibilities on what layers or levels of consciousness that you can interact with. And I think that's really amazing. Um, what, I don't know if you've asked the trees this at all, but have you ever asked them specifically, like, what are you? Like, what exactly am I talking to? You've never asked that?
No, I've never
Yeah.
asked that. You're just
Mm.
way deeper than us.
Well, I'm always you never know what kind of messages people have encountered. And I know that
Right.
like for me, because I literally shout my tree communications all over the world the world and different places, I get a lot of questions that come my way. And so I've had a lot of people ask me, well, you're talking to lower vibrational beings or certain aspects of darkness. And I'm like, no, that's actually not true, which perked
Yeah,
my curiosity. I was like, well, what am I actually communicating with? And if you look
right.
kind of in the historical components of like the dryads and the hamadryads, I mean, that to me makes a lot of sense and seems to ring true with my experiences. And that's why they're all unique. I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting topic to dive into.
Right. And with that, you could say you could do the same with any species, I guess, even humans or various animal species too. So
Hmm. Yeah, I
we have our
agree.
good vibrations and our low vibrations.
Yes, 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 yes. We're all learning, learning on this earth school. Um, it's really interesting. I keep seeing cherries and cherry trees. So I think they want us to go back and talk about taking, like harvesting. What has been your experience with, I don't know, do you pick fruit or anything? I don't know why cherries keep coming in, but I just see like people harvesting fruit and what that's like from the tree's perspective. And
had some of the wild, the little tiny wild cherries in my backyard in Cape Cod. So they were one of my first trees that I spoke with. But I do ask trees if I can take their fruit. I never take all of their fruit, obviously. And I just feel like I usually tell them to what I'm taking it for. So can I take some of this fruit for a jam? Can I take some of this fruit to make a tincture, whatever. And then they're usually good. But I mean, that said, I've also asked my herbs or flowers, can I take these flowers to make a tincture? And they might say, nope,
Mhm.
so I honor that and I go on and find some other ones. Yeah, so the cherry trees, I don't know if that's what they were wanting us to talk about, just asking permission again. Also, I think it's I think it's important to tell them what we're going to be using them for. I think that's part of the reason why we're here, like, you know, to have this communication and a balance again with, I'm using you for this. Is this okay? Type of thing. Because I think they're more than happy. That's a lot of the reason why they're here to help us in those ways. So anyway, but the cherry tree story quickly. I had this really old cherry tree in my backyard. And when my husband, oof, thank you, let me get some water here a second.
Yeah, no worries.
When my husband redid the house there 20 some years ago, this old cherry tree was there, and the contractors wanted to cut it down because it was easy for them to cut it down. And he fought to keep it. And so we have this old scraggly cherry tree out our window on the Cape. And he was one of the ones I tuned into. And I just kind of learned this in a shamanic vision that sometimes you can step into the energy of a tree. So I was talking with this cherry tree in the backyard, and I said, um, like, do you have any questions or wonders that I can help you with? And we were 4 houses back from the ocean, and it said it always hears this noise but doesn't really know what it is. And I said, oh, well, that's the water. And I just, for some reason, I said, do you want to go see it? So I, it said yes. And I said, do I have permission to like step into your energy and I'll walk you over to the uh, bayside? So I did. I asked its energy. I kind of unzipped it. I stepped into it and I walked it kind of like a tree would walk. And we walked over to the top of the bluff, and it just was like in amazement. Finally, after, 60 some years, it could see the noise that it heard all the time. Um, and then after a little bit, he said he was good. So we walked him back, and I stepped out and zipped him back up and thanked him, and he thanked me. And so that's my cherry tree story. So
That is fascinating. I have two thoughts popping in. I really love that story that he just wanted to see what all the noise was. I met a tree that was kind of leaning into the river. The erosion had started to kind of,
undertake, yeah.
yeah, started to take him. And I was like, well, what happens when you fall in? How do you feel about that? And he was like, I'm so excited because then I can finally see what's around the river bend because he was right on the corner. And what he showed me was that, like, when he falls in, he will intentionally try to hold on to his life for as long as he can so he can watch like the whole scenery. And I was just like, what a beautiful way to think about death. I was
That
just
is
like,
really cool. Yeah,
it is cool. I was like, I kind of want you to fall in now. And I was like, not right now, but I'm excited for your experience. And he was like, yeah, me too. And we just like, we laughed about it because it was so wonderful.
that
Uh,
is really cool.
the other thing I love about your experience here is, and I have so many questions about this. I have merged with trees multiple times, and I generally just like embody them, and we share space, or they show me their portals underneath in the unseen realms. Tell me more about your experience of taking the tree's essence with you. Like, just peel away those layers here. Tell me all of the details.
Well, I don't know how many layers I've even looked into this. Sometimes, you just go with whatever. And I've only done that twice. So um, the second time I did it, I was in Italy, in Lucca, Italy. They have a botanical park there, and they had these two really sad looking redwood trees, sequoias. And one of them just looked so sad. And I went home that night and I'm like, well, he had a little plaque by him, like 1824 or 1800s. He was brought from California to go to this botanical garden. And I tuned into him and he was just like this really sad. He didn't want to be there. Italy is not the climate for a sequoia tree. It's very dry and they like the moisture, and he just wasn't thriving. He was alive but not thriving. And so I asked again, I go, should we go visit your friends in California in the redwoods? And so again, I just like, do I have permission to step into you and we'll go for a little trip? And so again, I unzipped his energy, and I walked in and like, let's go to California. So we kind of, I don't know, in my mind, we were like doing these giant hops all the way to the redwoods. And this one, again, I mean, a lot of these things there's no right or wrong answer, and you don't really know what to do because so many of these experiences are just like brand new. He loved being with the redwoods. It was his home, it was his family. So, at some point, I was like, am I able to just like unzip myself and leave his energy there? I don't know. And so I said, I don't know if I can just leave you here. Can I like separate our energies here? So anyway, I'm like, I'm going to bring you back to Italy, but we'll figure out something. So in my mind, I brought him back to Italy and I unzipped and separated. And I said, here's what I'll do, because I don't know if I can just leave your spirit there. So I created an umbilical cord in my mind and I attached the umbilical cord from the tree in Italy all the way to the redwoods, like going through the earth, and attached him to the redwoods. So we created this big umbilical cord. And that way he could still have the energy of his tribe. And that's what I did. And then there were a few more sequoia when we were in Germany. Um, on this beautiful botanical island. And so I tuned in with them and asked them if they'd like the same umbilical cord. They were thriving much better because this lake in Italy, Lake Constance, had all this fog rolling across it all the time, which is what the sequoias like. But they still wanted to be joined. I started doing a little research, and there's actually several hundred sequoias all around the world that have been taken from the redwoods and planted in various places. So
Oh no. I feel like we need to go connect them all back to their home.
I know.
We'll have to do that. We'll
Yeah, we'll
start
do that.
working through that. It's really interesting. I wonder if they can follow I wonder if they can follow the energy cord and make it back home and find another tree to inhabit.
Mm,
Yeah, I've had some trees share with me that they can leave their tree body before the physical body dies. And often they'll
oh,
go down into the network below and they'll like almost like an electric pulse, like just travel around
yeah, yeah.
until some of them want to go find another tree to inhabit. Like, especially if the other one was dying and they're like, all right, let's go find another tree. I wonder if they can do that. I don't know if you've encountered this. So now I have more questions. This is great. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I have met trees that are vacant, absolutely no indwelling
Mhm.
spirit. And that's what they've asked me to call them, the indwelling spirit of trees. But um, they're vacant to give opportunities for other tree spirits looking for a home to inhabit. So I'm wondering if your tree friends can follow your energy line and find another tree in their home.
That's all. I don't know. I have not. You told me this story of the vacant trees once before, and sometimes you touch a tree and you don't get a reaction. And I haven't asked if it was vacant or not. I just got no response. So I don't know if that tree was vacant per se. It, I just don't know.
Yeah, vacant trees really just kind of feel like wood. I know it sounds awful to say, but it's like there's nobody home. There's nothing there. They
Yeah.
definitely feel very almost dead inside, even though they might be like a
Mhm.
really beautiful, lovely tree. It's like there's nothing inside. You're just wood, which is great.
Mhm.
But like, I don't know. I've met a few people
Yeah,
that
you,
have
I mean, you
encountered.
told me that story because so many were being forested or something, right? That you found a lot of the trees that are being forested are just vacating because they know they're just going to be cut down quickly and without gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, at the Christmas stroll that I was at, I met a gentleman. He stopped and he looked at my book and he was reading it and he goes, "This is all interesting." And I told him a little bit about it and he goes, "Well, I forest trees, so I don't really believe that they all have spirits." But he goes, "It makes me wonder." He goes, "They just grow right back." And I go, "Yes," but I said, just make sure you give gratitude when you take them all, and when they grow back, give them gratitude. That's all they're asking for. So he was like a big time forester, but I think I planted a little seed of gratitude there.
Oh, well, you never know, right?
Mhm.
I think I've met a lot of people in the forestry industry that are just like, there's more to trees than people really understand. They feel it on some level.
Yes, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So you've been sharing about different trees from around the world, from wild, and you're mostly wild, actually. Most of the trees that we've talked about have been wild. Have you found kind of like feeling disconnected? Maybe they're welcomed. Have you done a lot of conversation? Have you, let me say that again. Have you had many conversations with trees from nurseries, non-native trees that are planted? I'm curious if you've noticed how they feel, if it's different, if they feel out of place, in place.
Yeah, so I have two stories. I mean, I can kind of share. I was at a nursery, and I usually ask the trees or the shrubs or whatever if they want to go home with me. Some don't. So I'm like, okay, fine. And some will be like, yes, please, please, and so it's interesting their energy. What was I getting? I was getting a fig tree because a lot of people grow figs on Cape Cod. And so I was picking out a fig tree. There were only two. One said, nope, don't want to go with you. And the other one said, sure. And I got home and I was soaking him in his pot, getting him ready. And he was just so happy that I got him, but he was really scared. So that was interesting. And I put him in the ground and I kept touching base with him and um, just making sure he was acclimating okay. He wasn't really thrilled with the place I put him after a while. So we were trying to find a new place to put him where he had a little more like protection from the north so he could get the southern sun. So anyway, so that was one experience that, I just asked plants at the nurseries. The other experience is we had a weeping cedar at our old house. And I would touch the weeping cedar, and in the book, I describe him as like the grouch on Sesame Street. You're
Oh,
just like, leave me alone. Don't talk to me, just like really grumpy. And I had a friend on the Cape and I said, she talks to trees. And I'm like, oh, this tree doesn't want to talk at all. And she goes, oh, let me see. And she's like, oh my gosh, he's the same with me. And so, another friend who also talks with trees, amazing how we all start coming together, right? She said, well, have you asked the other trees why he's like that? So it hadn't occurred to me. So I did. I asked some of the other trees in my yard of why this tree might be like that. And they didn't know, but they said that he came from the nursery with this trauma from whatever happened. So he's been this way the whole time. And so I started having a lot of, I looked at him differently after that. I had more compassion for him. I'm like, oh, you're got tree trauma, right? So, I would just go by and touch him occasionally and just be like, thank you for being in my yard. You're a beautiful tree, and giving him gratitude. And towards the end, when I was moving, I said, I have enjoyed what you've taught me over the years, and I've enjoyed your beauty. And it said, thank you. I'm going to miss you. So I thought that was a big,
oh,
big break for my grouchy Oscar the tree.
Oh, even if he's cranky, you still made an impression. Oh, I just want to go
Yeah,
hug him right now. But I wouldn't because he probably wouldn't like
he wouldn't like it
that.
probably.
Oh, I've definitely met some cranky trees in the nursery world.
Yeah.
I was walking through a garden center and I get the same thing. It's like, who wants to come home with me? This is what we're looking for. And it's like, me, me, me. I'm like, all right, let's go. Some of them are like, not interested. That's fine.
Exactly.
I found that a lot of the trees from nurseries, especially if it's like larger production kind of agriculture
Hmm.
growth, it's almost like they're stock horses or like working animals
Yeah.
where they're like, this is just it. This is our job. We just go. And then hopefully, like, we land somewhere that is respectful, quiet, loving. But I always kind of compare them to horses because, like, I'm a horse person and you can tell the difference between a horse that is well cared for, loved, part of the family versus just like I use you because you help me get my work done. And there's like no love, there's no care. It's just like you're a working horse. Let's go do this job and then I'm going to put you back. And there's
Yeah.
definitely major, major differences to compare. And I get the same with a lot of the trees that I meet. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. It makes me wonder why we ended up doing this to begin with, you know? It's like, why can't we just enjoy the native landscapes that we have and foster and continue to grow that? How did we end up with nurseries with so many invasive species, non-native species, and then trauma, like give them trauma and then sell them, right? How does this happen? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could say that's all a reflection of human beings also. So we do the same with human beings.
This
So
is true. Yes,
yeah.
this is true.
Mm.
I get this question a lot, and I'm curious on your take. And it's why do you think people get different information from trees, whether we're talking to the same tree, talking to different trees around the world, asking the same questions? Some people get similar answers and some people don't. What do you think the root cause is for that?
Well, I think people you could equate it to like humans in that I could ask my Uncle Howard a question and he might give me a very different answer than he would give my brother because who's receiving the message is different. How they understand the answer is going to be different. So that's that's my probably number one comparison is that you're going to probably hear what you vibrate with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's it because I mean I've done healings with people. We've done group healings and you go to the same place and some people get very different answers. And I think we just vibrate at different levels to get a different, and that's why I love our group healings because we get so many layers of all of these answers. To me, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I do
and that
too.
and that's what I think. And I also find too that when we've done our group healings on nature, that like for some reason, I'm always going to these places and I'm crossing over animal spirits. Like
Hmm.
that's the thing I do. I don't go, oh, I'm going to go cross over animal spirits. I just get there and I say, what can I do? And I'm like all of a sudden crossing over animal spirits. Again, I guess that's my vibration. Some people always see indigenous people and
Hmm.
have communications with the indigenous, and I've never had that happen to me. So I think it's important to know that because we all have our different vibrations, we all have different tasks to do. And again, it's a community thing that we're all part of the web and we all have our strengths. So that would be, I guess, my long answer to your question.
I loved your answer. And I think that's so true. I really am a believer of we all are here to bring forward our own medicine and magic, and it's going to come forward however it needs to, just like you're crossing over animal spirits. So when you are crossing over animal spirits, let's kind of go into that here real fast.
Mhm.
Are they wild? Are they domestic? Are they both? How come they didn't cross over? And what's your process?
I've only done it a few times. I've done some human spirits too, but the it's usually when we've done some sort of group healing on nature is because I really, I don't sit around the house and just be like, oh, today I'm gonna go heal blah blah blah. It's usually when we get together on a coordinated call and there's a group of us doing it together. So first off, let me just preface it with that. So usually there's a group of us that are going like I think we did the redwoods, or there was a forest fire in Colorado, and I think a group of us went afterwards to help heal the land in Colorado. And there were just a lot of, when my energy arrived there, I asked what my best use could be. And I basically was called to cross over all these spirits that were caught off guard by the animals were caught off guard by the fires and the speed of the fires. So I basically call in one of the archangels, ask for them to open some light portal to help me cross over. And I can see the energy of all these little animals. It's kind of like a little bright cloud or a little I don't see the animals per se. I can tell if they're bigger or smaller, but I can just see the energies in my mind, like running into this light portal. And usually in the beginning, there's lots and lots and lots of them, and then it kind of dwindles down, and there just might be one or two kind of going across, and then it's kind of like I give the lights before an intermission, at a show. I'm kind of like, okay, this portal's closing in a few moments, so hurry on through. And that's what I do. That's what I've done for both people when we've gone to some locations and there's old energies that are there. I can cross some of them over and with animals. So for me, it's the same technique for animals and people. And I haven't gone like, oh, that's somebody's Aunt Joe and I'm crossing him over. I haven't done any of that specific stuff. It's more like we've gone to ancestral places that have some sort of energy from some occurrence, whether it was a massacre or a war or a catastrophe of nature. And I've kind of just helped a whole group of people over. So I haven't, like I said, done an individual pet or something like that.
Yeah, I recently we had a wildfire on the mountains that I can see every single day. And then one behind me, we were just surrounded by fire this year. And very similarly, I would check in every single day and just be like, can I do anything? And I was told no, 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 while the fire was still actively running, basically. And then finally, when it settled down, the exact same thing happened to me. I tapped in and I was like, here's all the animals. They just got caught off guard. It was so fast. And so,
Mhm.
exact same process. I think this is so cool. I was like, all right, let's open up our portal. And I see it the same way where it's just like a flood of light going through the portal and then it dwindles. And it's like, all right, last call, y'all. I'll come back tomorrow to make sure. But like, time's up. And I did that a few times and it literally feels like a sigh of relief, like
Yeah.
after you're done, and it's so lovely. Same thing with people. I do
Yeah.
a lot of land clearing too. We've taken the same program to kind of get us a foundation for that,
Mhm.
and it's the same thing with people. Portal opens, whoever, whatever needs to go through goes through, and then it's closed. And the same feeling
Right.
afterwards. It's like it's like a dark layer of whatever emotions and trauma they were holding has been lifted, and it's a lighter.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree. It's interesting that, well, I mean, we took the same class, so maybe it was the same technique. So I don't know. But yes, I do the similar thing. And when I get there, I don't, like I don't specify. You just go, how can I help? And that's, it's shown up a few times.
Yeah, I really love that. Just what can I do? I'm in service. You tell me what to do. And that's like, I think that's the best way to offer healing without having your own agenda or perceptions of what needs to be done.
And just be totally open-minded because you don't know what you might have to do. You might be creating an umbilical cord through the earth. Yes.
Yes, that is fact. I was told to do a ceremony at one point in time. I saw some where a client actually reached out to me and she said that her neighbor just went down and bulldozed a ton of trees just randomly. They had no fair warning. And she was like, "Can we just, help release the trauma of the land?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we tap in and all of the tree spirits were stuck inside the trees. And I was like, "I didn't know that could happen. I've only really seen this one other time." And it's like, how do we help them? How do we get them out? And it's like going with the flow. It's like these fairies
Right.
came in and they're like, "It's okay. We just need a witness. Like, we'll start pulling these beings out. Can you just offer them healing and hold the space until we're done?" And so it's like all of these tree spirits get taken out and the fairies are healing them. And it was like my client and I are just crying because it's so beautiful. And and it's like you really truly never know what you're going to encounter when you enter into the space of land healing, which you might be releasing tree spirits.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, isn't it?
It really is. Do you feel like the shamanic journeying has really been helpful with tree connections and, of course, everything else that we're talking about? But do you feel like it was really important for you to tap into the trees initially?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, to me, I mean, I guess it's a technique to connect yourself. So to me, that was, if I didn't learn that, I don't know how I would have been able to connect.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I have people go and they touch trees now and they're like, I can feel the energy. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if they can just touch a tree and I guess they can, yeah, because I can touch trees and talk to trees. I don't have to go on a shamanic journey to talk to a tree. But for the healing and things, I do find that that's very powerful. I've also used the same techniques now to start communicating with water, which is
Mhm.
fascinating. And is it Veda Austin? I
Yes.
love her stuff. I started like freezing water to like natural lake water to see. I've asked the spirits to show what they look like in the water that I've frozen, which is really cool. Um, and I've been trying to heal and help the local waters here. And I also did it on the Cape Cod too. We did that there. So the waters want a lot of help too. So not to digress from the trees. I'm not digressing. I'm just they're all connected, right? We're all connected.
Exactly. Well, and that's
So,
really what this whole space is the consciousness of all. It's not just the
right.
trees. I I have worked with water too in a lot of ways, and I love Veda Austin's. I have her protocol, and I'm obsessed.
I know it is, isn't it? I'm like, let's freeze
Yes.
this water.
Yeah, I'm going to be traveling to an old growth forest here in the beginning of January. And I was like, I need to take my dishes and see because it's a rainforest. And so I'm like, I wonder what that's going to freeze like coming off of the old growth trees. And I'm just like, cannot wait. I will keep you posted how that
You
freezes.
sound just like me. I was walking here, the snow, we got a warm day and the snow was all melting. We had this little babbling brook, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had a little container to take some water because I'd love to see what the melting snow in the woods looks like water.
I love that. Oh, I just love that you're working with water. Have you connected in with other nature beings like the stones or the mountains or anything else?
I am in the process of connecting into some stones. Where we live here in Maine, a huge glacier just dropped. I have
Mm,
all these boulders in my backyard, like the size of, Volkswagen bugs, just big, big boulders. They're covered with ferns and moss, and I absolutely love them. But yes, I'm in the process of talking with these, I call them the big three in the back, and I'm helping them open up an energy portal. And so
nice.
that's about all of the boulder work I've done so far. But, we just moved here 3 months ago. So I'm in the beginning stages and they've been around forever, ever, ever. And I just arrived. So
Wow. I am going to need to know more as you progress with your stone beings. I love the stones. I think they're amazing. They're just they're just as cool as the trees. But enjoy
Yeah.
your portal.
Yes, it's in the process. I feel like it's alchemy swirling around, but it's, it's in the process of doing what it's going to do.
Really cool. Oh
It's
my
like the bread
god.
rising before you bake it.
Yes. Ooh. Now I need to go make some sourdough. Oh my gosh. Can you believe that we're already at an hour? We could talk
I can
trees
believe
and
it.
I know we could do this all day. But let's close down with final thoughts. Is there anything that you want to share that we didn't cover? Yeah.
No, I just really think we all, if your intention is to do this, you can do it. Be open-minded, know that we all feel or see the energy in different ways and be okay with it. Um, Try to find a group to compare your notes with. Um, those are the main things. Yeah. And I just want to say I did, in addition to the Tree Connect book, I did do like a little journal, and the journal inside of it, it tells people, has a list of the steps to if you want to talk or tune into a tree, it's got all the steps. It's got what are your intentions of why you want to speak to trees. It explains the different types of clairs here a little bit better. So if people are beginning, what kind of clair are you experiencing? Are you seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, tasting, or knowing? I've got some questions you can ask trees. I've got some reflection questions after you're done. And then I've just put together all of my pictures of trees and travels, and you've got lots of space to have your conversations noted.
Oh, I love that. Will you send me a link to that so I can include that?
Will do.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing the messages from the trees.